When Secretary of State Marco Rubio meets here in Israel with his counterparts, I'm wondering, what role does President Trump's latest proposal about displacing 2 million Palestinians out of Gaza, taking control of Gaza, which has been met with just widespread condemnation from the Arab world, what role does that new idea play in the negotiations here and in the continuing, whether or not this ceasefire can continue?
I think it's changed the conversation, Brian. The conversation for the last 30 years, and I've been involved in that peace process for 30 years, has been that the only way you can move forward in the Middle East diplomatically is by creating a Palestinian state. Because without the Palestinian state, so the old school used to say, that's the source of all the instability in the Middle East. There's no Palestinian state. Along comes President Trump and says, no, the source of instability in the Middle East is the Palestinian penchant for violence. And that Palestinian penchant for violence is a result of socioeconomic conditions in the Gaza Strip. You correct those conditions and you're going to get a lot less violence. So I think that principle, that notion has changed the dialogue, has changed the discussion about the Middle East and about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Now, the question, how can this be implemented? Where will these Palestinians move to? Those are technical issues. But what has been established is a principle. And there's no way back from this. There's a principle that says we have to get to the core of the conflict. The president's saying this is the core, and I think about 80% of Israelis agree with him.
Do you think the Arab world will continue to support this, given the fact that this proposal is on the table? I know the president met with the Jordanian king, and they spoke about this. The Jordanian king was not a fan of this proposal by Trump. I mean, I got to think, I just want to get your thoughts on the X factor here, which is now President Trump, and how that might be playing a role here moving forward.
Well, I think no one's really disagreeing with the principle that Gaza has to be reconstructed. And having spent a lot of time in Gaza as a soldier, as a civilian, it's beautiful beachfront, everyone's right. And that the potential there is immense. The question is how you realize the potential. And what the president is saying, it's very difficult to realize that potential. If you have 2.2 million people, refugees living in tents, and they're sitting on top of about 30,000 unexploded bombs, it's very difficult to do. I think people in the Middle East will generally agree that building Gaza and making it into a prosperous, secure zone without Hamas is a very, very good idea. That's the essential idea. How do you get to that ideal? That's where the statespeople, the politicians sit down and knock their heads together and come up with a solution.
And real quick here, do you think that this ceasefire continues into phase 2?
My gut feeling tells me it really has to. Again, Israelis want to see these hostages home. They're not willing to say that the 30 hostages are going to die, that they won't have those reunions with those families. It's just too difficult. We are an unusual society in that way. The Israeli parents send their kids into the army with the understanding with the state that the state will do everything possible to free their children if they're ever taken captive. And that's sort of a basis of the way we defend ourselves from war to war. And we're willing to take immense risks in order to preserve that principle, including the risk of releasing terrorists who most probably will go back to being terrorists in the future. It's a difficult, I understand, the difficult dynamic to understand. It's peculiar to Israel. We have no choice. At the end of the day, we will continue to struggle against Hamas until Hamas is eliminated.
And here we have Secretary of State Marco Rubio at the tarmac there in Tel Aviv, greeting his counterparts there in Israel. The main goal for Secretary of State for Marco Rubio is what, Ambassador Michael Oren?
The main goal is the next steps in Gaza, pursuing the Israeli-Saudi peace agreement, ensuring that Hezbollah will remain cobbled and cowered in Lebanon, assuring that the Syrian situation, and we don't know who's going to be in control of the situation, will not threaten not Israel, not Jordan, other countries in the Middle East. And ultimately, as I said earlier, the big issue is going to be Iran, and what are we going to do about the Iranian nuclear program?
Well, so we shall see. An important visit by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, former Israeli ambassador to the U.S. Michael Oren, thank you so much for being with us through that landing there. I appreciate that. Thank you.